My mom sent me an article with a bunch of movies that it says you should watch before watching this Tarantino film. A movie, you shouldn't have to watch a bunch of other films to understand or appreciate a film, and that's something that bothered me.
We know what we're talking about.
We do.
We're not just some bum off the street.
Hey, movie blowers!
Hello, we're back.
And we've got an interesting review. This is the review you've all been waiting for, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. One where Jordan and I will hash it out because we have exact opposite opinions of this film.
I don't know if this can be like called a review. I think it could be called like a fight, like a battle to the death.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Battle to the Death.
Yeah. So I was super excited about this movie. I believe you liked and retweeted something about me being excited, so I think you were also excited.
I was very excited for this film. Tarantino is one of my favorite directors, and I just felt let down. Do you want to explain what the film is about?
Yeah.
Because I can't.
Well, it's just about 1969. It's kind of the end of the Hollywood golden age. The hippie movement's coming in, and Leo DiCaprio plays an actor who is, towards the end of his career, seemingly. And Brad Pitt plays a stuntman. And it's just kind of a day in the life of what they're going through, experiencing at this the end of the 60s and through the movie industry. And we kind of have Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate, who is the beacon of hope, who is the innocence, she's just seeing her movies on screen with an audience, and it's just like the hope that comes with that, becoming in the industry, and the balance between her and Leo's character as he's fading out. And so, and to the set to the Manson murder, that's kind of like dramatic time clock. As the movie goes on, we kind of know what this is leading up to. So I just want to say, I'm a casual Tarantino fan. I see his movies and I'm like, they're good. Yeah, okay.
I've been a diehard Tarantino fan. Since I was young and my aunt showed me Kill Bill when my mom wouldn't have let me watch those films, I would watch it every day at my aunt's house. So, for me, at this point, I feel like Tarantino is getting a bit lazy. He's getting older as time is going on. It started off with, if you look at his earlier films with, Kill Bill, for example, all the fight scenes, it was so well choreographed. Inside, when she's going to fight Lucy Liu's character, you had hundreds of people choreographed for this fight scene against Uma Thurman. People are running up walls. People are just funneling in to this club, and all the fight scenes are just so intense and so dramatic and so well choreographed. And I felt like there was literally one fight scene. I mean, Brad Pitt beat up that guy
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, and then beat up the guy who popped his tire.
Right.
But there wasn't any real Tarantino fight scenes, and the ending scene, I just expected more from it. I literally felt the dog did most of that damage, but the girl who ends up in the pool, she literally just copied her performance from Daryl Hannah's scene in Kill Bill 2 when she gets her eye plucked out. Flailing about. I literally felt like I was just watching Kill Bill 2 and Daryl Hannah again, but in another movie. So there was no new performances. I felt like this young actress was just oh my god, I'm going to be in a Tarantino film. Let me watch his films. And then just copied a performance from one of his films. So I was very disappointed in that. But going back, what did you think as an avid, a casual Tarantino fan?
Yeah, well, he's kind of known for, these plot-heavy machinations. Hateful Eight was just so plot-heavy, whatever. And it was nice just to... Because you mentioned, you texted me, you saying, I like my movies have a beginning, middle, end, character arc and all that. And for me, it's like occasionally I love movies that are just a day in life where like it's not plot heavy, but all the other elements are firing on all cylinders. Great acting performances. Leo as a comedic kind of, he has a stutter, which you don't like, and a cough, but I think that is part of his character, because like it shows like he's not the obvious choice for an action star. Whenever you have this stuttering guy who has this horrible cough, the cough kind of represents like he's been focusing more on his like smoking and drinking and everything, and he's kind of taking his eye off the prize. And so I like that. I like Brad Pitt just being cool. I mean, he's just like when he took his shirt off when he's on the roof, like everyone in the audience just went, and Brad Pitt's a 55-year-old dude. He's still got it, and he's just that was great. And this movie's kind of a perfect storm of all the movies that I like to watch. It's a movie about the movie industry, about I like movies where an end of an era is happening and a new beginning, characters have to react. That's why Ron Burgundy, Anchorman, is such a great movie. And so, yeah, it's just a perfect storm of all these things. And it's just like, I like these moments where you just have people hanging out and talking. Like, my favorite scene would be Leo DiCaprio is on set, and for this TV show that he doesn't even want to be on, he's embarrassed he has to be on it. And there's this little girl who's like this perfectionist method actor, and she ends up having him like break into tears just because, the parallel if he doesn't care and she is just like in character on set and he's drinking and stuff and smoking, and it's a fun movie there's 80s nostalgia going on now, and now this is like a nice 60s nostalgia. Mm-hmm. And I liked being able to live in that moment. I didn't need a plot it probably would have distracted me from focusing on just like the long car rides and hearing stuff on the radio. Like I found that just kind of peaceful and relaxing.
See, my mom liked this film because of all the 60s nostalgia. She was so excited that like the drive-in, Panorama City. I was born in Panorama City, and like she's like, oh my god, like all the places. It just like took her back to that time. But for me personally, I didn't grow up in that time. I have no idea what went on during that time. I'm not familiar with the entertainment, like those actors, because this is based on like real people, real stories. But I literally felt like the 60s just threw up in a movie and there was no real like storyline. You're just kind of felt like living in this era, which I guess is okay, but like it didn't clear anything up for me. I was left kind of lost, like what's going on? Why are they're just like barely touching on certain characters and like not continuing like any further explanations. And a friend of mine told me that like things don't always need to be explained, but when it's at a point where you're so confused about what's going on, and I felt like there was no... It just kind of did this. And then there was a little bit of, like, intensity at the end. But it's, like, over a 2-hour film. So to just be, like, cruising along for 2 hours, that's a bit excessive for me. And Rick Dalton has a stutter, which didn't really make sense to me. He's an actor. He, like, talks perfectly. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, then you hear him start stuttering. And I was like, wait, why is he stuttering all of a sudden? It was just very confusing to me, like, why they all of a sudden threw a stutter in there, and, like, coughing to a point where, like, he can't stop yet on set when he's filming. Like, it seems pretty okay. The only issue he has is he forgets his lines. Those are some issues I have. Also, the narrating was done by Kurt Russell, who was in the film for, like, 2 seconds, and then all of a sudden is the narrator, which I didn't understand. Did they just, like, hope that no one would know that it was him narrating, or was there a purpose to this specific guy narrating the lives of these people, which there was only a narration in like the beginning before the film starts, and then like kind of like over an hour in towards the end, so it wasn't like a constant throughout, which also bothered me. I was like, if you're gonna have a narration, it should be like chapters. Like, usually Tarantino does chapters. Like, Kill Bill, he had, like, a chapter per person. So that would be a good place to have a narration. Maybe clear some things up. But he didn't use it to its full potential, you know. I was explaining to my mom that the audience that Tarantino has usually isn't the older people because they don't like such gruesome things, you know. The younger kids like the more gruesome, like, blood and guts and, like, arms ripping off. But the people who are watching this film who would enjoy the 60s nostalgia are the older people. And that might not really be into all that blood and guts and gore. And my mom was actually very worried. She was telling me she was ready to get up and leave because of the Sharon Tate thing. So if you guys aren't familiar, Sharon Tate was an actual actress, which I thought was cool that I think they played a movie that she was actually in and used the actual actress. That Margot Robbie was portraying. But she gets the Manson family cuts out her baby and kills her. That's what happened in real life. So what my mom liked was that this was the ending that everyone in that time who experienced the Manson times, this was the ending they would have wanted. They would have wanted her still being alive. They would have wanted the Manson family to die. And not these people, these innocent people. I think that's great. That's cool for all those people who experienced that. But for me, who didn't experience that, I was kind of left a bit confused.
Yeah, it is very heavy on 60s nostalgia, and it plays on hoping you know on the history of what goes on there. But for me, I think that's why the Rick Dalton character kind of represents the timelessness of it for me, in that he's kind of like the underdog. He kind of represents any people, I think a lot of people who don't feel like they've reached the height of where they want to be in their career. And so for me, I think that's the anchor of this movie. We kind of identify with Leo, and like that scene where he's in the trailer after messing up his lines, and he's like throwing stuff, and he's like looking at himself in the mirror, and he's like, I'm gonna blow your brains out tonight if you don't get this right. We've all had that moment, whether you're an actor, a nurse, a cop, whatever, where you just have to give yourself a pep talk. And for me, that was the moment where I was like, oh my God, like that's like the Rocky scene where he's like, you like my apartment? It stinks. It stinks. It's like that pump up moment. And for me, that's where I was like, oh, yes, let's go. And so whenever he has the scene afterwards where he nails the scene, it's like that's the underdog story, that kind of the timeless underdog story that anchors this 60s nostalgia. And so that's what worked for me.
Well, with that scene, he's like, you're gonna stop drinking, like you're an alcoholic. So he ends up like promising himself he's gonna quit, and then like throws his flask out the door. So then all of a sudden he's amazing, he's doing amazing, and like now he gets hired to go to Italy and film some movies, and all of a sudden he's like fantastic again.
To me, I didn't interpret him as like he's a silly character. To me, it's that moment whenever like you have a big test coming up, and you're like, dear Lord, please, I'll go to church every Sunday, blah, blah, blah. And then you pass that, and you're like, all right, I forgot about that prayer. So that's how I interpreted it.
And then, like, the random Cliff Booth killed his wife thing.
That's the one thing I kind of wish they would have expanded on. I was expecting them to cut back and to see, like, the boat, like, a wave hit and he accidentally...
Yeah.
Or something. I guess, you know, yeah. I would have liked to have seen that expanded on. At best, it makes for a great joke when Bruce Lee is like about ready to fight Brad Pitt, and he's like, "Who is this guy?" And they're like, "He killed his wife and got away with it." And he's like, "What?"
Yeah, I mean, I felt like that was pretty much the only point to putting that in, because then you like slightly follow his character, but then it stops, right? Like when it's like it gives it a tiny in, but then it stops,
right?
And you don't get any more, and it's like, okay, well, you can't really start like telling someone's story and then like stop. At that point, you need to like maybe give a little more, just like don't expand at all. It was a little bit with Margot Robbie's character, but you didn't get too much in detail. It was just like a little, when the guy is like, oh yeah, like a little gossip, that person is sleeping with that person, and that it was just like such an easy way out instead of like experiencing it, touching on the Manson, that whole sequence where Cliff Booth drops the hippie girl off at the ranch.
Yeah, Spawn Ranch, yeah.
And this lead up to everyone thinking this guy is dead. Because Dakota Fanning is apparently sleeping with this old man. And Cliff Booth had been a friend of his and familiar, like working at his ranch all the time. So you think this guy's dead, killed by these hippies. And there's such a lead up.
Mm-hmm.
And the scene is so long that when he wakes up this guy, they have the same conversation. They just repeat the same things over and over again for like 5-10 minutes. Where the guy's like, I don't know who you are. And he's like, oh, well, I used to work here. Like, I just wanted to make sure you were okay. Well, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I just wanted to make sure you're okay. Like, are you letting these people stay? I'm fine. Like, it was literally just repeating the same thing. And then it's like, okay, Dakota Fanning is obviously just doing that to, like, so they can all live there.
Yeah,
but, like, it was just, I'm like, what is going on with this story? Like, it was such a climax, and then literally nothing happened. It was like, okay. And then Brad Pitt just, like, beats up some guy, which I feel like he just threw that in to give us something, some sort of, like, intensity in the scene, but it wasn't with what it was leading up to. Which I'm not usually so upset, but the scene went on for so long. I needed a little something more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why, but it worked for me. I kind of like the subverting of my expectations where they kept setting up, like, you know, they kept making the audience think, oh, he's dead back there. Like, making up excuses as to why he shouldn't go in the back.
Yeah.
And then you get there, and they keep saying, oh, he's napping. Don't go in there, he's napping. You know? And then when he gets there, he's actually napping. I was like,
yeah.
Oh my god.
But I don't know, have a more interesting conversation then. It was so boring.
I don't know, to me, it reminded me of conversations I've actually had with old people where it's just like, I'm getting nowhere with this.
Yeah. I don't know, I just feel like Tarantino's getting a bit lazy, and he's like, well, I've got to put out 2 more movies, everyone's waiting for this, and then just kind of, oh, everyone loves the 60s, and like, Manson, let me just throw up the 60s in a script, and I'm Tarantino, so I can do whatever I want. That's what it felt like to me. And there was no Tarantino elements, really.
I think that's why I liked it. It subverted my expectations overall. Like, this was like his sweetest movie in a way. It was his most... Like, that whole scene with Margot Robbie going to see her movie, it was like, that just felt so wholesome and sweet. And just like, it's sad, but the way the movie ends, it's like, it's happy, but it's also melancholic. And like, it's the way we wanted the 60s to end, but it didn't. And I thought it was very, in a way, sweet. In a weird, violent way. It ended up being sweet. And so I liked that. I liked this is like his most star-studded movie. Like, all of my crushes are in this movie. You have Margot Robbie. You have Danielle Harris from the old Halloween movie. She plays the hugely pregnant woman for like 2 seconds. And then you have Lorenza Izzo is Leo DiCaprio's wife, the Italian girl at the end.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of my biggest crushes, and she popped up, and I was like, what? So, yeah, there's all kinds of big faces, and it's a movie about making movies, so I love that. I love the sneak peek into what movie set life could have been like back then. So, I don't know. It worked for me. I didn't need violence. I just liked hanging out with these characters. But
it's a Tarantino film. Tarantino is known for violence, blood, guts, gruesome arms ripping off, eyeballs being plucked out of your head. Like, you have like standards to uphold for your audience base that have followed you from the beginning, and this was just like anyone could have done it.
I'll say that in order for the third act to have been as shocking as it needed to be, I think had he put more violence in leading up, it would have lessened the impact. So I think that's why.
Well, because it wasn't a big enough impact in the end. It was just a dog, like, and you didn't really see much. Like, it would have been a Tarantino film if you saw the arm rip off, blood go splatter across the walls. Like, sure, a girl gets torched, and it was funny, but, like, it was the same. You watched the same performance as Daryl Hannah in Kill Bill 2. And what bothered me was the cinematography. Like, come on, Richardson. Like, you are better than that. It felt like a film school student trying to figure out where to place the camera. You can let us know if you like this or not. Who do you side with, Jordan or Daria? Who won this battle to the death? If you have any other issues that you came across in the film, comment below.
Or if there's anything else you liked about the movie. There's a plethora of them. I'm sure I barely scratched the surface. The soundtrack. I've been listening to the soundtrack on repeat. Soundtrack's amazing. I want to put that in. But yes, that is our battle to the death on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Thank you for watching. I'm Daria.
I'm Jordan.
And this is Movie Blah Blah. See you next time.
Peace.